I'm here mostly because I want to tell you about myself. I want to tell you a bit about my story and why I ended up being an artist, how my story made me an artist somehow, and how I also gained the knowledge and the experience that that allows me to hold you through the same process, if that's the process you want to go through. I feel pretty uncomfortable, to be honest. I don't really want to be doing this. I don't really enjoy talking about myself in this way. The exposure feels pretty uncomfortable. But, I'm reminding myself I don't have to do this right. I just have to do it. I often go back to my childhood quite a lot in my art and also in my self-work, because that's where the core of the belief systems that I hold right now were built. I had a really rough childhood. I felt pretty lonely because I felt like I was the only one who was aware of certain things. When I was growing up, I was aware from a pretty young age that my parents weren't a safe space. Together, they were awful to each other, and therefore there was a lot of emotional instability in the home, and I felt like the only one that I felt like I had to be in control. I had to manage everybody's emotions so that we could make it through the day. But mostly my tool was to shut myself inside myself. So I was very isolated, very angry, and very alone through all of it. And I projected an image of independence to my parents, which made it so that they sort of left me alone in that isolation. They were like, oh, Melissa's got it, she's taking care of herself, so she's got it. That of course wasn't the case. I just felt like I'm better suited to look after myself than they are. So what that made me do is turn towards my inner world. Me and my inner world, we've been going through this since the start, and I think that's what makes me have a good communication with my inner world, although I had projected the relationship and the way that my parents treated me. I treated also myself that way. I treated also my inner world in the same way until I went to therapy, which was pretty late, until 5 years ago when I went to therapy. So yeah, I was very I used my imagination to escape, and I could imagine whole scenarios. That's how I got through school, is by sitting there and imagining scenarios, and I would disappear inside my own head for the whole class. I could do that. And I also did it at home, and when we went on holiday, and when we went to hotels to be by the pool, I did it all the time. Which of course is a excellent tool of escapism, but it's a tool of escapism nonetheless, because I didn't want to be there. And that lasted a very long time. All of this kind of neglect and all this kind of feelings of that who I wasn't truly seen, left me with a very low sense of self-worth. So going into my adult life, I went with this very diminished view of myself. And that's dangerous to be walking around with, because you really let people treat you however the fuck they want. And I felt like my voice didn't matter. I felt like whatever I made didn't really matter. So I was just kind of going through life trying to prove to people that who I am matters and I'm worthy, and or at least not worthy for loads of praise or anything, but just worthy enough to survive. Just let me pass through, There was this feeling that if people really knew me, they would see that I'm made of cheap material and I would be found out to be worthless. And it's interesting how these things hang out in your subconscious and they just inform everything you do. It's not a conscious thought. You don't say to yourself, I'm worthless. But the way that the atmosphere with which you treat yourself and the way that you think people should respond to you has this quality of worthlessness. So I kind of hid my talents, my natural abilities, and my wants for a very long time. I felt like what I want didn't matter. What I want doesn't matter. Didn't matter. Fast forward, I move as an adult to Cyprus and I start getting into some quite violent relationships. Had a lot of anger in me, and I also had a father who treated me quite badly, so I felt like it was okay to be treated badly and that it was love. And it got to the point where the police were called, and yeah, that was like rock bottom. The police were called, there was real violence, and my mom said, that's enough, you're going to therapy. And it's interesting how the worst thing that ever happens to you, it becomes the best thing that ever happens to you. Like, I am so grateful for that relationship and also that moment. And that was the real turning point of my life, where I started to take myself, where I started to be with myself in a very genuine way. Like shit, I can be my best friend, and everything I need is here in me, and I have so much to give myself, and I can have so much fun with myself also. And my relationship with me is my priority. And it takes years, and I'm still working with the deep roots of self-worth, the patterns that run, the mechanism that runs without my consciousness. But I think going to therapy was an enormous step, because finally you have somebody there, like somebody who can really be there, who is trained to be there, and who has the compassion to be there in your most childlike selves and your most fearful selves and your most rejected selves. You have somebody there who, week after week, can really be with you in that process. So if you're struggling deeply, I fully recommend professional help. And in my opinion, psychoanalysis is very worth the money that it costs. It's an investment, but it's an investment in yourself that will give back to you. Like at that time, before the therapy and all of that stuff, I was so painfully shy. Like I couldn't speak to you and look you in the eye. I couldn't speak in a group of people where we're all hanging out and you have to like step in and claim your space. I could not do that, The embarrassment would just like swallow me whole, and I would just have this very small voice, that would just whisper to people like, I'm not worth anything. I'm not worth your attention. I'm not worth your time. So in that first year of going to therapy, I was also so fearfully running a creativity school called Blend. And what happened was that teachers would come, and also I would host workshops around all the art forms that I desperately wanted to be involved in. So I've always wanted to be an artist. I've always been an artist. Art has been something that has been with me since my childhood, so I was always drawing and writing and singing and performing. But there was never but the understanding was, you can't make a job out of this, and also you're not good enough to be a performer or to be really truly be an artist. You're not good enough for that. Because it takes an amazing amount of self-belief to be an artist. So you have to be your own support system, your own champion. You have to really believe in yourself. So I didn't do that. But regardless, that was the only thing that I was good at and that I really wanted to do. I studied filmmaking, which was kind of a way for me to be an artist, but sort of be behind the scenes in my eyes. I remember I watched the film Moulin Rouge, and as soon as I finished it, I just went straight back to the beginning and watched it again. Just loved it so much, and somehow through my brain I decided that I'll be a filmmaker, because I just wanted to be part of that movie in any way I could, and I couldn't imagine being a performer. I couldn't imagine that it was possible for me to be a performer or be in front of the camera, which is what I truly secretly desired, you know. So anyway, cut back to Blend, and I am fighting my demons to promote the work that we're doing at Blend. I started to think about being an artist and learn how to be an artist. I did dance improvisation, music improvisation, theater improvisation every week for 3 years. And somehow in there, poetry popped into my life. I was doing some major work to wake myself up, to wake up my love for myself, my passion, my creativity, my strength. I was doing some major work to wake all of those characters inside me up through art. And one day I sat down and I wrote a poem called Darkness Feminine, after a meditation where I'd really accessed that part of me, that unapologetic, passionate, no bullshit taking feminine aspect of my character. Like, I accessed her, I met her, I saw her, and I sat down, I wrote this poem, and I felt it was the best way to express her. And you know, a few weeks later, we're having a poetry open mic, because I was trying to do everything and anything to fill Blend with people. And a wonderful man comes called Argyris, who is like, at the time was the cornerstone of the poetry slam scene in Cyprus. And he says like, oh, you know, you should come take part in the slam championship. I'd still never shared that poem with anyone. You should come take part in the slam championship. And at the time, I just wanted to perform. I just wanted little steps towards performing, you know. I was so brave, you know. I was so brave. I was just like, I just want this so bad, like anything will do. So I was like, okay, I'll do this thing. And I prepared this poem, Darkness Feminine. I learned it by heart. I could say it with my eyes closed, juggling. I could say it, you know. And I went there and I performed it and I won. And that was a big change. I remember the moment where they said my name, and like, I had a lot of friends in the audience, and like, the applause was so fucking loud. Like, in my head it was so loud. In my head it was like fireworks went off, and like poppers went off with like serpents, like with Hartopolemo, you know, like and like streamers and like woo, like but it wasn't like that. Energetically it was like that for me. It was a really beautiful moment. And also, like, a few days before that, I'd also just gotten together with my partner, who was a man who was like truly wonderful, you know, truly kind. And like, I believed that I could have that. Like I got to the point where I felt worthy of actual love, like actual safe love. And there it was, and then I won this thing, and from there on in, things really started to change because I started to have proof from the outside world that what I was doing on the inside was working. And it's been steady work and steady progress from then on in, and it never ends. And that's okay, because there's always new layers of discomfort that you can give love and worth to, so that you can shine bigger and brighter and explore and experience more and more of this life. And now I'm working with my new limits, my new, like, where do I feel like, actually, no, I'm not good enough for this, or I don't deserve this, or like, where is that boundary where that still exists, that I can learn how to, like, give love and give worth and remind myself that anything I want, it's possible. I want it because it's possible, because it makes my spirit hum. So I think what I have to give people is unique. Obviously, because I am unique. But it has a lot to do with worth, with knowing that you can create whatever you want, with belief systems. I use creative writing as a tool for so many things now. I basically support myself. I mean, I have it here. I basically support myself throughout my life through creative writing, as well as, therapy and mentorship and creating. But creative writing is an amazing place to address these belief systems, and to say your dreams, and to track how you are and how you're evolving through time. I have a lot of experience with therapy. My mom is a therapist, and so I've grown up inside the culture. And going to therapy has been one of the pivotal moments of my life, and I continue to learn so much about myself and about going to a deep place there. I also do a lot of energy work, so I've been working a lot with the energy of the body, the energetic body, and how it and how you can clean your energetic body from residue from the past, and how you can evolve your presence and your instincts and your intuition and just the feeling of being in your body. And I've also built myself to be a working, acknowledged, like, known artist in Cyprus from nothing. Like, I had I didn't know anyone when I first came here in 2018. And now I know a lot of the art world, and it's evolving. I've brought myself to a place where I can say I am an artist without feeling a shrink inside. And that I am consistently creating stuff, like I can take things to the finish line. And what I'm figuring out now is that all these things that I do, they fit together in a very beautiful way. Psychology, energy, and creativity. For me, they are one gorgeous space of being with yourself, of understanding yourself. And I'm developing this method of going through the portal of the body to find the internal symbols, which for me have brought me here, basically. I'll be talking a lot more about that going forward, but I think saying this story, it was really hard to get here in the morning. But I think saying this story, it's another landmark. It's another step forward in my worth. So yeah, that my story isn't something full of shame and full of that nobody wants to hear or that isn't of value. It's a thing that actually enables me to hold other people. And that's something that I can do well, is hold other people. Because I've had to hold myself for a very long time. I've been to deep, dark places. I know how to see darkness without shame. Yeah, and I've also been learning, like that's my biggest investment is in therapies and in techniques of how to hold myself and others towards healing. So yeah, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. If you've heard all of this, like really, thank you so much. And reach out, even just to say hi or just like to share your thing or how this affected you or how you connect with this, like anything.